Welcome to one more session. Today we are going to discuss about the selection. In the last video we discussed about the sequential part, that how the sequential thing is working. Today we are going to discuss about the selection part, that how the selection stuff is going to work. So it says that you need to draw a flow chart that is going to determine, that means that is going to realize that whether the users, that means again users input means that you are gonna take the thing, or you are gonna take the number, or you're gonna take the value input from a user. So the user's input value, is that odd or is that even? So in real life, how are we gonna realize that whether this number is odd or whether this number is even? So that we say that any number that is divisible by 2, completely divisible by 2, that means it's an even, otherwise that's a odd number. Okay, now if it's a even, so obviously if it is completely divisible by 2, so the remainder over there will be 0, that means we will be left with nothing. But if it's odd, so yeah, we will be left with something, so that won't be equivalent to a 0. So how are we going to do that? Again, I made a mistake right over here. Start is a block letter, should be in the block letter, sorry, as it is the keyword. Okay, so we are going to start the program. Just after the start, I'm going to declare the variables. Now I do not need to declare anything else. I do not need to declare num2, I do not need to declare sum, I do not need to declare count, I do not need to declare total, nothing. I do not need to do any stuff. I just need to declare the variable, because it's a single variable, because it's a single value that will be input by the user. So I declared num. Once I'm going to declare num, so I will be asking from the user to input the value for the num. So I just said input num. Just after that, I place a decision box over here. Now this decision box says, what does that say? It says either no or either yes, or you might say either yes or either no. So what will be the condition that I'm going to apply? So it says if num that was input by the user mod. Now what do the mod function do? So it's a built-in function. Now do remember that we do have two different types of the functions, the predefined functions and the user defined functions. The predefined and the user defined functions. So predefined means that these are the types of the functions that are already declared, that are already constructed for the programs. User defined means that you are gonna create your own function. Yes, we will be learning about how to create a function, so we will be learning this in the topic for the functions. Okay, now mod is a built-in function that gives you the remainder. What does it say? It gives you the remainder. That means if the number is mod 2, that means whatever the number, for example, user inputs the value 78, 78 divided by 2. So is it completely divisible by 2 or not? So yeah, it is completely divisible by 2. So 78 is completely divisible by 2, so it will be giving you the remainder. So the mod function actually gives you the remainder. But if it's 79, no, it's not completely divisible by 2. One is left behind. That means the mod function gives you the remainder once again. So if the remainder is equivalent to a 0, that means it's an even number. If it's a yes, so you're going to just output even. If it's a no, so you're going to output odd. Now either it's even, either it's odd. In both the conditions, you will be coming to the end of the program, because you will asked to determine whether the user or single user input value is that odd or is that even. Now how are we going to do that into the pseudocodes? So let's see for the pseudocodes. Okay, now when it comes to the pseudocodes, so over here you might see it says write a program that determines whether the user's input value is that odd or is that even. So now we need to declare num, and it is having a data type of the integer. Okay, we do not need to initialize anything, so no need for the initialization. Now this is again a prompt statement. That means it will be just displayed on your screen. If you just missed it from your program, there is no difference to your program. Yes, but user demand, or sorry, the examiner demands from the prompt as well. So it's a prompt statement that says enter the value for num. Now what you're gonna do, you're gonna input the value for num. Now anything could be done. Now just after that, what we did, we made a decision box in this format, and we applied the if condition right over here. Now how that if condition is applied into your pseudocodes. So you just write if, just after the if you, I just missed the things over here, yeah. So if num mod 2, okay, now for the O levels you need to place the brackets, for the AS levels you do not need to place the brackets, you can go without the brackets as well. So I say if num mod 2 is equivalent to 0, output num is even, that means the if this condition is fulfilled, then this statement will be printed. Output means that this printed is going this statement is gonna be printed. Now why I have moved it ahead? This is known as indentation. What do I mean by indentation? Indentation means that you are gonna you're gonna actually indent the things, or you're gonna let the examiner, or you are gonna let the programmer know, or actually you are gonna let IDE know or be aware of it, that this output statement is actually dependent on this if condition. If this if condition is gonna fulfill, only in this case this output condition is going to execute. If this condition does not, so this is not gonna execute, or this is not gonna print out. Now we do have three things. Let me show you with the stuff as well with the pseudocodes. We do have a sort of a appendix over here. Let me show you. Yeah, so it's over here. So if it's a single statement, so we just said if condition then, okay, now if you're writing a single statement, then you do not need to write then, but if you're writing multiple conditions, then you need to write the then. Okay, so if condition then whatever the statement, as you just said, output statement, and then finally end if. But if you are having multiple of them, so if condition then statements whatever, then for the second one we will be having else if. Now else if can be applied multiple of the times. It's not necessary 10 or 29, it can be executed like 100 or 1000 times as well. Okay, so we do have else if, and finally whatever the final condition is, we do have else over here. Do remember that we need to put up the condition with the if and else if, but we do not need to put the condition with the else, because it's understood if all the conditions are not fulfilled, obviously that will be the else condition. That means that is the otherwise case. So else statement, finally as many as else if you have placed, you need to place as many of them and if, and finally and if for the if condition as well. Now what we were actually discussing, so we were right over here with the second program. So if this bracket is removed by, okay, fine. So if num mod 2 equals to 0, that means this thing is going to be executed, else this thing is going to be executed. That means if the condition is fulfilled right over here, so this statement will be printed, otherwise this statement is going to be print, and then finally we do have a and if. So this is how the selection programs do works. Now in the next video we will be discussing about the iteration or the looping part.